Hey Guillaume, nice to meet you.
Hi, Yao. Well, nice to meet you. Well, nice to see you again, I would say.
Yeah, long time no see. It's like I'm meeting my ex after 6 months of separation.
Does it feel weird? No, it doesn't feel weird.
I missed you so much.
Same.
Oh, Cindy. Cindy wants to join the action. Okay, so it's like super exciting. I've seen that the bearer/bearer repo has just crossed 500 stars on GitHub, and like you've released it just how long? Like a
Two
week?
days ago. 2 days ago.
Yeah, so like 500 stars in 2 days. If you keep this same trend, wow, that's
Yeah, well, let's cross finger.
yeah. So like I was thinking that the best way to actually understand how it works would be to maybe go through it once together with you and see how I can maybe use it in an app.
So it's a life test. I'm sweating a bit then, but that's great. That's what open source is all about.
Okay, I see the docs and yeah, like what is the actual point of the repo? Is it something like a static code analysis tool?
Yeah, so it's a security static code analysis with like a very special kind of edge to compare to like other things that you might have seen in the past. Is like we look also for sensitive data, like personal data, PII, PHI. We look like for 120 different type of sensitive data across your code base, and we tie those with security risk and weaknesses that we can find, and it allows us to kind of better filter and prioritize them. So we dynamically change the priority of an issue depending of the impact on the sensitive data. So for example, you could have like a rule about you're going to leak data in a logger. So for example, you might leak a PHI in a logger. So it's pretty bad. If you leak like, for example, just a PI, so it will be less important. So we have like specific rules like that. But also, let's say you find a risk like regarding connecting with an insecure API. For instance, if you don't manipulate any sensitive data with that API, we're going to put it as a low risk priority. Sometimes we're not even going to alert you about the risks. So ultimately, it's all about really thinking about the final impact in terms of security. Usually today, like the job of security teams is like to safeguard sensitive data. This is the most important asset of every organization. It's really like those sensitive data, making sure that they don't get breached or they get leaked. And one of the issues with security scanner, code security scanner, is that they're usually very far from the final output, the final impact. And by going back and tying that with sensitive data, we think that we actually have a better way to filter and prioritize those and get back to that final impact. So ultimately, it's to secure your stack better by having that specific viewpoint around sensitive data and try to do that in the best developer experience as possible. Like personally, I've been like CTO, developers, VP of engineering for a long time, and I've always seen security from not the security side of the mirror, but the developer side, like as probably many people watching today. And well, often it's not such a great experience, those tools. So if we decided to build that, is like to provide like a great developer experience. It needs to solve the problems of like what the security organization is here for, but also ultimately the biggest users of those tools are developers. We're the one writing the code. We're the one fixing the issues that sometimes we introduce by mistake or just because we don't know it, because it's difficult ultimately. So yeah, developer experience is a big topic here.
And you mentioned that it like analyzes the data, but does like connect to the database or just the like code base?
Just the code base. So, so it's a good question. So it's a bit weird when you think about it because we detect with quite a very good precision ultimately the type of sensitive data your application is processing, but without looking at data because it's only on the code base. So essentially what happens is like we treat your stack, your code base, every line of code as like a massive metadata layer, and we apply the same static analysis pattern like for finding like a security risk to finding sensitive data. So like if you think about Rails, so there are area in your stack where it's kind of easy to find, like in your schema file, for instance. So we analyze those, obviously. But also then we look at models, we look at variable, class name definition, all of those things that makes, like static analysis, and we do use AST parsing to do that. So we look at all those data patterns, and then we classify them. So we have a built-in classification engine in the project here that help us ultimately assess 120 different type of data. That higher level, they're regrouped into PHI, PII, personal data, and sensitive personal data. So those are like the usual taxonomy in the sensitive data landscape. And usually people understand quite well what PII, PHI are.
Yeah, it's like interesting to think there are like lots of different types of static code analyzers. Like there are syntax analyzers, like I know Rubocop or EIB-lint or Prettier. Then there are like tools like Bearer or Brakeman for like analyzing vulnerabilities. But anyway, let's talk less and do more. Let's try to see how I can maybe run it locally. Okay, I've got a console up, so I'll try installing.
You have Homebrew if you prefer, if you're on a Mac. We try to provide as many options as there are like people, but both works well.
Does make sense to run it again, or no? I think I've already done Jekyll, right?
That's good. Just like make sure that it's by design when you install it with curl, it's installing your /bin directory. When you install it with brew, since like you've got the right path, you just have access to the bearer command wherever you are. Just like more practical, but you don't need that.
Okay, so scan your project. Okay, let's clone your test repo. And bearer scan, bear publishing. Okay, maybe I will.
If you want. Otherwise, like bearer, the command line with curl, as you can see on the latest line of your install with curl, it was installing your /bin. But this way is going to be easier. Like for like while it's installing behind the scene, like it's built in Go. So it's just a binary. It's like almost zero dependencies, which make it like super light.
Okay, so I've installed it and now I'm running bearer scan and the name of the repo.
You're already in that repo.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave the repo and from outside. Let me maybe make it a bit bigger. Okay, these are the results, I guess. 100 checks, 12 failures, 6 volumes, some kind of codes. Okay, so here I see like the schema and missing application level encryption. And I wonder how it knows that I'm missing application level encryption. It's like the file for the script that gave the result that I'm missing this like encryption.
So it's a specific rules for Rails. As you can see, just a warning. So we don't break your CLI or UCI you plug that there. It's just a warning, those. But it's a best practice if you have sensitive data, especially in Rails, because we have a built-in encryption layer, application level encryption layer in Rails. Like we found you didn't do it, so we alert you. You can always bypass that rule, of course. Just by design, it's a good practice.
So like in a, let's say, Rails 7 app, I would use some kind of like attribute encryption. Like active record encryption to not have this error, right?
Exactly. And if you go back to the rule, when you open the rule, so the code of the rule, this is what we check. Actually, we looked in your database, in your schema. We looked at sensitive data in your schema, so that you're storing your database. And then we matched it with your model. And we looked into your model if you were missing or not that encrypt layer. So that's how we actually found out that, well, it didn't do it.
Okay, and let's say I don't care about this this specific like test. How can I ignore it?
So just below the link to the rule, you actually in the command line you have the example. To skip this rule, use the flag -- skip rule.
Okay, so I will try rerunning with skipping this rule. Okay, fewer errors. Sensitive data sent to Sentry.
Not good.
Yeah, quite a lot of different rules. And do you have some kind of like best practices on how to solve these issues in my code base?
Yeah, if you click on the documentation with each rule, so it's like we'd like to obviously improve it. So you see you have a remediation title. So depending on the rule, sometimes it's very straightforward. So for example, this one, like just don't send sensitive data to Sentry, so just remove that part. Sometimes it's obviously more tricky, so we give more explanation. But that's obviously like a work in progress. And this is where like we love actually community contribution here, is to try to educate as much as possible and give like all the right information to quickly solve the problem, understand it and solve it.
I assume most of these like warnings or errors that the Barra analyzer produces can't be auto-corrected.
Automated remediation. This is
Yeah,
like
I would like to have something like
everybody would love that, and maybe with ChatGPT, why not? We can ask it. This is honestly, this is a big topic in generally speaking in that industry. It's controversial. Sometimes it's something we could, and this is something we're actually working on and going to provide, like is some automated remediation for some, but it's really not possible to do it for everything. Because automated remediation mean I'm going to change your code without potentially you knowing, because ultimately you want to plug that into your CI. So what we would prefer as a first step is to directly in your CI give you some suggestion that you can add, but we don't want to update and commit for you because it's especially tricky. You never know what can happen, and we don't want to break your stack, and nobody wants his stack to be broke by an automated bot, whatever. And there are like so many edge cases and corner cases that we think like more like the suggestion type is good. There are like some, for example, the Rails logger is like interesting. The Rails logger is like an easy automated remediation. I could just simply comment it. I know that nothing bad is going to happen. At worst, you're not going to have like the logging. But for example, like you're sending sensitive data to like an API. Well, I'm not going to not send that sensitive data without asking you because, well, maybe it's going to break everything that you did before. So it's a dream, and part of it will always stay a dream in that industry. But I think it's more about providing you suggestion. I think that's already a first good step. And we'll be there. It's only the 1.0.
This one looks like something easy to change. Like I would go to, let's say, code, and
if you click on the file, it opens it directly for you, by the way, in the CLI. You do command click on the file, and it opens it directly into your Visual Studio Code or whatever editor you're using.
Find it. Where was it? Yeah, no, not this one.
No, that was
just click a random one. Yeah, works.
Yeah, so the goal, user experience, like I mentioned, like trying to provide like fast access to what matters.
Okay, and basically, like I understand that it's like a tool that strictly analyzes my code that I can build into my CI and get these kind of errors or warnings. And what else should I look at? Am I missing something important?
No, so so essentially, and it's simple and fast, and that's the goal, is to be able, you run that on your laptop like you did. Ultimately, you run that into your CI, your CD. We provide a GitHub action to do that into your CI like really easily. At the end of the day, it's a CLI, so it's pretty easy for anyone to plug that wherever they want. But you plug that there, and you're going to want obviously to break it when you find certain type of level of severity. You've seen like we have warning, low, medium, high, and critical. The recommendation, but that's like every team is different there. But what we see, either you're like, I don't know, you're working in like a very, very sensitive environment, and you probably have a really good security practice, and you're going to want to make sure that you have almost nothing getting released in production with an issue. So you're going to probably check everything, or maybe just medium level. When you run the scan, you've got multiple configuration flag. So you can say like, I only want to run it and show me things that are medium or above, or just things that are high or above. You can start with high or critical in your CI/CD, for instance, if you don't want it to trigger like for lower stuff, especially if it's a stack that is not new. You might have a lot of legacy, and so a lot of gap and risks already. You might not have tons of time to actually fix all of them. Our goal here is, like I said, like by focusing on the impact with the sensitive data, is to show you critical and high first. So this is kind of the one that, we recommend you to fix, of course. But yeah, this is kind of the way to use it. So you have like a lot of different configuration options to do that. And also, we have like inside the tool, if you just run bear, just run the bear command. So you can see like different options. So for example, the scan, so this is what you did. And the scan, there is like different type of report. Actually, we have like what you did is like a SaaS security report, but we also provide a privacy report. Since we're able to find all those sensitive data in your stack, we can generate a privacy report that are going to be able to show you in your applications. And essentially, if you have many applications, that is even more interesting. But all the sensitive data that you process, all the third party that you're having, all the databases, etc. This is something important, especially if you're under a European privacy law, GDPR, but there are like the same thing in Brazil, in India, in China, etc. Even in California now. But this is something that is important in terms of report, that usually, like if you're like a mid-large organization, you're going to provide to your security team or your compliance team, and it's going to help them fill up their compliance work. Because ultimately they have to understand like which sensitive data do they process everywhere and from who. So this is like a nice add-on that we've added. And just on small story, this is usually done manually in big organizations. So people looking into their stack and trying to understand which type of sensitive data do they process. So obviously it doesn't work, it doesn't scale. So this is something like super easy. You run it, your privacy, your compliance team is going to be very happy.
Okay, and like I just ran this bearer scan report privacy on the repo, and it gave me some kind of
it's a CSV.
I don't
Yeah,
understand.
by default it's a CSV file. So you output it in like a CSV and you open it. Like those teams usually love CSV files, but you can change the format. Like same thing, like the you have a format option. Everything that you see is either directly in readable format in TLI, or you can also provide a JSON output. Even for the scan report that you've run before, you can actually ask a JSON output. For that one, by default, it's a CSV output. There is maybe a JSON output out of it also. That's all of that is in the different configuration and in the documentation.
Okay, I got it. So this is like CSV, and for example, the email address of a user was detected 9 times.
Yeah, that's so first is the subject line. So we've tied that to a user. Like in privacy, you always have that concept of who's the subject. Is it like a user? Is it the customer? Is it an employee, etc., etc. So we try to actually tie that to a data subject. That's the terminology. The data type. So we have full name, email address, etc. And then you've got the number of times we've detected, which is helpful because it's going to help you assess like also how much of those data you might have, and also potentially like give you like a certainty level. And then for each of them, we also give you like a nice summary of all the risks that we found, because well, ultimately this is also something that is important for privacy.
Okay, and like there is also Brakeman that, if I'm not mistaken, does something similar.
Brakeman does does like it's a security statistical analyzer. So it's going to find like some equivalent findings, like for example, like you're missing the CRF or those type of things. There is like a few differences ultimately. So Brakeman is only for Ruby. What we've done with Vera today is like JavaScript and Ruby, and we're going to expand and we're going to do like way more languages. So the goal is to have like one that does it in every languages. But Brakeman doesn't have any concept of sensitive data. So there are like rules that you can't have there by design. And the prioritization that I talk about is not there. Brakeman is good in the Ruby world, is pretty good because it's been also there for quite a long time. Our goal is to obviously match in terms of parity, in terms of the number of rules. And also there is one thing that we do that we think is pretty cool for the community is you can build your own rules. So we have you have a way to build rules in Bearer for any languages. It's just YML based. It's extremely simple. So you can extend the engine however you want. If you want to look at how you build rules in the documentation, you've got a complete page. Create a custom rule on the guide section on top. So that's all the rule by default that you have, and you can create your own custom rule. So it's YML based. You don't need to know how static analysis works. Basically, if you're able to write Ruby code, you can write a rule because all the heavy lifting is done behind in the engine. The only thing that we ask you basically to write is patterns. There is some magic keywords that does everything for you automatically, finding the sensitive data, for instance, classifying them, dealing with the prioritization, and so on. So that gives you the ability, well, to do your own rules. We've got some people, for example, that build rules for their own encryption way. So like by default, like you've seen before, the one on a Rails default encryption, but obviously this is not the only method. Especially mid-large company tend to have their own way of doing those things. So if you do also, you can create your own rule to check are those data are encrypted the way you want it. Also some examples, like for example, with backup or environments. So we've seen a lot of people, well, backup or big data environment where they dump data into their big data environment for analysis, etc., and they end up actually dumping like sensitive data. So you can create your own rule. The way to do that is obviously like always custom. So like really that customization aspect is important for us. So I would say like, yeah, the two main differences essentially are the sensitive data aspect, which is absolutely unique. There is no other tools that have ever done that. People thought we were crazy when we started to do that 2 years ago. And the ability, well, to extend it, and ultimately having one thing for like a lot of languages today, like I said, JavaScript and Ruby, and this is a 1.0, so we're still like expanding. That's why like, you know, having that discussion together is great, and I hope like people that are listening can test it, can provide feedback, pull requests, help us extend it, and then, well, go beyond Ruby. Even though like we love Ruby world, we've been Ruby developers personally for like since 2006, so really early. Rails.1, so we have like a personal attachment to that community. So that's why we started with Ruby and JavaScript, and a lot of people think, like, are you nuts? Why Ruby? Well, we love Ruby, so.
Yeah, and now I would like to run it on a few more or less real repos, so like not on your dummy repo that have a lot of errors. First of all, I will do it on my Corsego platform. It's like a Udemy clone that I built and which you can see my courses. And
are you sure you want people to see the security issues you have?
I mean, maybe somebody will open a pull request to fix a few of them. It is available at Corsego/Corsego. So yeah, I have already got the repo locally. So I will say scan Corsego, and let's see. Yikes!
I mean, oh, not bad.
Okay, so application level encryption, course income, name.
It's a user.
Unconfirmed email. Yeah, I would like skip these for myself here actually. Open redirect detected. Aha, password length. Interesting.
Yeah, probably by default your configuration is not correct. And you do have two. Oh, that's interesting. It triggered 2 times. Well, I think you can open an issue because I don't think it should have triggered 2 times.
Yeah, and same line. Okay. Actually, I'm happy about the result. Like, not that bad as it would have been. And let me try doing it on another repo. So I've recently built this kind of Insta to blog where you can kind of log in. And yeah, let me actually try doing it. Oh, no, I won't. I don't want to show you my list of emails. Yeah, but basically you can like log in and pull in all your photos and videos from Instagram. So it is also available at github/Insta2blog. You can have a look at it on your own if you like. And I will run it on Insta2blog and let's see what it gives us. Nothing. Stop.
No, you got 3 high.
Okay, so yeah, this is inside a call to the Instagram API, so the user actually can't change this in my case. Encryption for username. Username is a field that would usually be visible to everybody, so I would expect like no need for encryption.
Well, technically, this is like officially, this is a personal data.
Okay. And email. So yeah, also not that bad. But again, these applications are not like massive, and I've been working on them more or less on my own. So
you've got a few more on top now because you've got 3 high from the summary.
Oh yeah, I should have gone a bit higher. Hard-coded secret.
So let's default. It's like what are you using behind?
So I'm using passwordless for authentication instead of device here, and it's like the email address from which the invites, like all the authentication emails are sent.
Okay, interesting.
And here, again, there is actually
I think passwordless. Like we did some specific rules with device, but this one is interesting. We'll check it out because I think you can improve the rules on this one. I don't know the gem enough to give more info, but for sure I think this one there is something we can improve. That's always the by the way, this is always one of the trickiest part when you do like static analysis. Is like there is a lot of edge cases, so that's why like behind the scenes it's never regex, like as a lot of people think it's that you go way beyond that. That's where you do like AST parsing and all of those type of things, but you always end up in some tricky situations. So that's why like more you've got usage, more you've got feedback, more you've got actually it running on different stack, more you can actually improve the rules and you can fine tune and try to reduce. Sometimes it's false positive, sometimes it's just not actually triggered exactly the right way. So this is like why having you right away sending an issue so we can look into it would be great.
Okay, got it. And yeah, so I more or less understand like it's a tool to analyze like static code analysis to see like data vulnerabilities, and I can like plug it into my CI, and if I'm just doing some kind of like indie level app where I'm working on my own, or like, do you think it makes sense to plug Bearer in, or like who would get the most, let's say, value from this kind of static code analysis and reports as I ran previously?
Yeah, so this is the job of your security team when you have one. Obviously, not everybody has a security team. That's especially the job of AppSec engineers. But the reality is their job is to plug that, run it, look at the results, but also more and more their job is to try to help the developers and provide and push those results directly to developers, because the goal is to fix it. Nobody else is going to fix your code. So this is something as a best practice. Plug those tools, whatever are those tools, as early as you can in your stack. Especially if your applications start to grow or your company start to grow, at some point you can't ignore those issues, because it can start to cost a lot of money. Also, like, more you grow, more you've got code, more you've got legacy, more you've got developers, more and more it becomes a nightmare. So the earlier you start your journey into the security land, the better it is. And of course, it needs to be as frictionless as possible. It will never be completely frictionless. Like, security is always something that you have to do more than if you didn't do it. Like, it's going to take you a little bit of time, but it's going to take you insane amount of time and risk if you do it way too late. So that's why, like, we always recommend to do it early. That's why also, like, this is open source, and the goal is to have everybody be able to start that whenever they want. Sometimes we think security is just for the big company. Well, it shouldn't be the case. Like, your data, our data, they are everywhere. Small, big, very big, very small companies. Well, they should be managed properly everywhere.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just like looking. I think a next video I need to make is how to add the application level encryption to Rails app.
Yeah, well, please do it. This is actually more and more used, and in reality, like, I think we're so lucky in the Rails world to have something by default that help us do that super easily. This probably the only stack that can provide that type of level of security natively. So please do one of those videos. I know that I'm going to share it.
Yeah, I'm also just thinking right now I don't have locally a good repo, but it would be cool to see if it would give such a good result on like a Hanami app, for example, or like a Sinatra app.
So it's like it's always all depend of the rules. So we target the rules mostly target Rails today, but in reality, some of those will trigger it's Ruby. So it just probably not all of those will be applied, and you're going to miss some. But there is no, well, it's going to work. To work, it's just like the scope is probably going to be more limited until we have some people that help us build those rules in Sinatra, like dedicated to Sinatra, for instance.
Okay, and lastly, let me try running this scan on a Jekyll blog. So my blog, this one, it is working on the Jekyll, and yeah, let's try and see what it gives.
Probably very light, I would imagine.
I think it would. Okay.
That's a great ending.
Well, there are like mostly static markdown files there. But yeah, I mean, so far looks good. Like, I'll definitely try adding to a CI for like these two apps that I've ran the scan on, like Insta2Blog and Corsego, and try fixing the errors or ignoring a few.
Thanks for doing the live demo, and please write one issue for, like, just I'd like the team to look into it to see if it's normal or not. And everybody, please, if you have like feedback, like remarks, contributions, ideas, please. We're craving for those. This is the most important. This ultimately our vision is to plug those type of product and solutions in every stack everywhere. So it has to be as smooth as possible. Not everything is perfect and far from perfect. It's actually 1.0, but we'll get there quickly, especially with your help.
Yeah, man, like I just refreshed the page and there are 3 more stars.
Well, keep starring.
Okay, Guillaume, it was great talking to you, and yeah, good luck with Bera, and yeah, I'll try adding to 1 or more of my apps.
Thank you, Yaro. It was a pleasure to be here, and congrats for all your videos. So looking forward to the one on encryption.
Yeah, thanks, man. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.